James, you've been speaking to the president today.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that, David. I had a call with Donald Trump inside the White House. He wasn't the only Donny that I spoke to, however, because there was another cold call to a Donny Desalis. Do you know who he is?
I have no idea.
He was a football player, played for Haiti in 1974. And of course, with Scotland going to play Haiti, we want to do a bit of filming with him. I phoned up this number, which I was assured was the bold Donny. And the guy picked up, he says, no, nobody of that name here. This is the maths department of M18 school in Massachusetts. So there you go. Reminded me of the time I phoned Lech Walesa in my radio days. You remember the Polish trade union leader? And I spent a day getting this number. Sure enough, found Mr. Walesa, phoned this number in Gdansk. And it was only when they picked up at the other end of the line I realised I can't speak any Polish and they can't speak any English. And I said, is Lech in? And they hung up.
I'm David Blevins.
And I'm James Matthews, and we're both in the Trump 100 studio in Washington, D.C.
Trump has been to a farm in Wisconsin. And on that farm, old MacDonald had a strop. Yes, you heard that correctly. And it's a week of moving parts in the United States ahead of the World Cup, which begins on Thursday. Players, coaches, referees, all struggling to get into the country. And a mass shooting near the England team's training base. This is America's World Cup.
Yeah, quite a build-up to the biggest show on earth. Elsewhere, there has been a wave of strikes between Iran and Israel that happened on Sunday. It seemed to signal a resumption of war in the Middle East. Both countries are holding back, though, for now, after Donald Trump got involved. We spoke to him on the phone, and we'll tell you all about it.
So, James, a few days before the World Cup starts, have you put any money on Scotland?
I've put my heart and soul on Scotland, David, but no money, if that's okay. But yeah, first time since 1998. In fact, I've just been back in Edinburgh. I was back for a week, and I packed my retro 1998 Sky News World Cup T-shirt. We all got T-shirts then in the old days.
You'll get a lot of money for that if you flog it in Boston.
Well, I might come to that. Yeah, but these were the days 28 years ago in France, Saint-Remy de Provence, I remember. And, you know, it's going to be great to see the Tartan Army back out in full bloom for World Cup. USA, we're travelling up to Boston in a couple of days' time. Should be quite a spectacle. But that said, David, there is something of a stench, I think, around this World Cup. In the same way as we had in Russia in 2018 and in Qatar in 2022. Controversy, certainly. Both had issues around LGBTQ rights. And, you know, in Russia, there was the illegal annexation of Crimea a few years before the competition. In Qatar, there were the poor conditions for migrant workers. So that was then, this is now. But I think the controversy hovers around a few things, but at the centre of it, one man, Donald Trump, and his politics.
Yes, it hasn't exactly been the warmest of welcomes for teams and players who have been arriving in the United States. We've already spoken on the podcast about countries whose fans cannot travel to America because of travel bans. The Ivory Coast, Senegal, Iran. And you're going to see that in Boston because, as you say, the Tartan Army will be there, but there's no Haitian equivalent for the Scotland-Haiti game. And Donald Trump's strict border policies are also having an impact on players, coaches and officials.
Yeah, the problem for people from Haiti is that they're not allowed into the United States. They're on the banned list. So difficult, you know, for that country, their supporters. Although at the recent Haiti-New Zealand game, you know, the stadium was packed with Haitian. There are many Haitian Americans in this country. Scotland fans, actually many of them are finding difficulty with their ESTA visas. They're looking one day and the ESTA is approved. Next day they look and it's pending. And some actually have a look and it is not authorised. So that is causing a last-minute panic for many people trying to make embassy appointments and so on to pin down entry into the country. This, after they spent thousands on, you know, hotels, flights and tickets and so on. So that's the fans. Participants are also experiencing difficulty. Take one man, Swiss striker Breel Mbolo. He was born in Cameroon. He's just one example of the problem. He has had his US visa flagged and he was barred from entering the United States. It took until this past weekend for that to be resolved.
Got to get fine.
Well, exactly, yeah. And Iraqi striker Ayman Hussein, he was detained for 7 hours when he arrived in Chicago with the rest of the Iraqi squad. Assistant coaches and medical teams from the likes of South Africa, they've had similar issues not getting their visas until the 11th hour. And then on Monday, Africa's best referee, Somalian Omar Artan, he was denied entry when he arrived in Miami. He's the first Somalian to referee at a World Cup, denied by Trump's Department of Homeland Security.
So a Somalian referee shown the red card at Trump's border, but the Somalian authorities had given Artan a diplomatic passport and he had a completely valid visa. That wasn't good enough, though, for the authorities who turned him back in South Florida. There's also the case of the Iranian football team arriving for the World Cup amidst hostilities between the two nations. They are operating under nightmare restrictions here. They've already moved their training base from the United States to Mexico, and a hold-up in getting visas has seen the team arrive a week later than had been planned. US authorities, James, have reportedly told the Iranian team that when they play in the US, they must enter and leave American soil on the same day as their matches. That's easier said than done when some of those matches end at 10 p.m. in the evening.
Yeah, I do wonder what that means, David. Are the US police going to be arresting Iranian players if they stay in the United States beyond midnight, Cinderella style? I mean, clearly that would be absurd. But given the year we've had with ICE agents and so on, who would bet against it? This is a World Cup. It's a competition that's meant to unite nations, not divide them. It's supposed to be a celebration of football, the people's sport. And yet, it's been a logistical nightmare for many teams and for their fans. Meanwhile, you get the sense that FIFA and Trump's big mate, Gianni Infantino, are just keeping their heads down and looking the other way, ignoring these difficulties. We can't ignore the fact that all these countries, they have something in common. These countries that are largely affected, they're countries with players who largely have brown or black skin. Now, I'm not saying the American authorities are being racist necessarily. I am saying that it looks more than coincidental that the countries suffering at the hands of US border patrol seem to be African or Middle Eastern currently.
So difficulties with travel and with visas, not the only problem this World Cup is facing. There are, of course, the risks of American life. Over the weekend, 9 people were injured in a shooting in Kansas City. That's just 10 minutes drive from England's training base. I suppose it's a very real reminder of the dangers that exist in a country that is synonymous with gun violence.
Yeah, that's right, David. Moving on from football, the president, he's been thinking about a sport different altogether, basketball. Donald Trump's announced he's heading to New York, Madison Square Garden, for Game 3 of the NBA Finals between the New York Knicks and the San Antonio Spurs. Who's your money on that one, David?
You're the basketball expert.
Well, we both are. We go to see the Washington Wizards, don't we?
Now and then.
Which is great, apart from the cost of the beer, actually. 2 Bud Light, $50. That will never leave me.
Don't dare order a portion of fries.
Anyway, this is a massive moment for New York basketball. The Knicks are 2 wins away from basketball immortality. It would be their first championship in over 50 years.
So a party atmosphere for the Knicks, but what sort of reception will the President of the United States receive? He's been very critical of the NBA in the past, Trump saying this organisation is destroying the game. And of course, New York is not Trump country. He's historically unpopular, drastically low job approval ratings. The Knicks are also Zoran Mamdani's team, the socialist New York mayor, and he's been seen at games and he has been received very well.
He has, yeah. They do that thing at basketball, don't they? In the front row, that's where the celebrities sit. You see, Jack Nicholson, he supports LA Lakers. The New York Knicks, their celebrity supporters are Ben Stiller, Spike Lee, Timothy Chalamet, and, as you say, Zoran Mamdani. I'm not sure how Donald Trump is going to enjoy being in that lineup, especially when the kiss cam comes on. Dance cam, he might be okay. I think there's every chance we might hear some boos when the president's face appears on the jumbotron during the game.
At the twilight's last gleaming, whose brush stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights, where the ramparts we watched.
That won't stop Donald Trump, though. Who knows that he'll be getting eyeballs at a game. You know, it's massive. This NBA Finals matchup, it's the most watched in recent memory. 10 million Americans are tuning in from home.
That's a lot of votes at stake.
Well, yeah, it certainly is. A great opportunity for the president to be seen in front of a big audience, a man who likes the limelight, being associated with successful teams, you know, native New Yorker, of course, and who often goes to sports games, college championship finals, and of course the FIFA Club World Cup final.
He does love the limelight, but he wasn't loving it on Sunday morning, James, when he spoke to Kristen Welker on NBC's Meet the Press. She was pressing Donald Trump on his continued accusation of election fraud in the US, and he'd had enough.
We're like a third world country. Your elections are crooked, and you're crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked, and so is ABC, and CBS, and CNN.
But Mr. President,
you're one-sided crooked networks. All right, let's call it quits, because I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good time.
Mr. President, let's please. I traveled all the way to Wisconsin.
I've sat in the rain with you.
I know.
I've sat in the rain with you for an hour, on and off in the rain, and I've given you enough time. You ought to straighten out your press, because you know what?
Mr.
A
President,
country can never be great with a dishonest
Listen,
press.
we
Come on,
traveled
let's go.
all the way to Wisconsin for this interview.
Well, there you go. The noise you heard at the end was Trump stamping on the microphone as he walked off. Not a great look, I didn't think. Although, David, I'm not sure it was the best line from Kristen Welker either. I've come all the way to Wisconsin for this. Anyway, the other noise that you might have heard throughout that interview, that constant kind of wash sound in the background, that was the driving rain on, I think, what was a tin roof. Because the interview, if you're listening to the podcast instead of watching us, it was done in what seemed to be an open farmhouse in the middle of a downpour.
Yeah, very petulant from the president. But the location and the driving rain was not ideal at all. A bit of a producer's nightmare, really. It reminds me of interviews I've done that have not gone to plan. Have you had a few of those, James?
Well, one or two, yeah. I mean, actually, with Donald Trump himself, we were interviewing him at Aberdeen Airport and his golf course, buying days, and the wind caught the door once. We had a young lad with us, Phil, at the time. He was helping out with the cameras. And the wind caught the door. He was in charge of the door. And this door battered during the course of the interview. It slammed shut. And Trump just stopped mid-sentence, looked towards Phil, who was about 10 yards away, and he said, "Hey, guy!" And young Phil, young lad, just kind of blushed, big red face. So we actually found it quite funny, but and have never let him forget it. What about you, David?
Well, the interview most people talk about, of course, is when the mayor of LA tried to avoid my questions but couldn't exit the air bridge at an airport and had to face quite a few of them in silence. But I'll never forget interviewing a man called Steve Staunton. Remember him?
I do, yeah.
Used to play for Aston Villa, Liverpool, captain of Ireland. He was leading the Ireland squad home from the 2002 World Cup. There was a huge celebration, Phoenix Park in Ireland. I managed to grab a moment with him on the stage with all of the thousands of people behind, and we were halfway through the interview when the music started and Westlife appeared, and we almost became part of the lineup that night for Westlife, the career that I could have had, James.
Oh, fantastic. Now, a football player I spent many months chasing was Paul Gascoigne, when he played for Rangers. And there was one day there was some summons in Italy. Some judge wanted to speak to him about something. So I was sent, to Ibrox doorstep him, which I did. He came out the door, and he was actually good fun, Gaza. And he came up, and I said, Gaza, there's a judge in Italy, and he wants to speak to you about it. And he stopped me mid-sentence. He said, hang on a minute. Can I just say something here? So I stepped back, pushed out the microphone, and he said, something. Very funny, Gaza.
So, James, back to a subject we've talked a lot about over the last 101 days, the Middle East. Iran and Israel have exchanged missile strikes for the first time since the ceasefire in April. Now, if that escalates, there would be even less chance than it seems there already is of a deal between the United States and Iran to bring the war to an end. So this is a moment of real jeopardy for Donald Trump. And you've been speaking to the president.
That's right, David. Yeah, I called him. He picked up. He didn't have much time and actually only took one question. And that question to him was, if Benjamin Netanyahu goes back to war with Iran, will you be with him? His answer was, I don't think it'll happen. It's all working out very well. Iran is doing what they have to do. I don't think that's going to happen. Okay. I think in his statement about Netanyahu, he demonstrates a confidence that for me belies a growing impression that he doesn't actually control the power dynamic in the US-Israeli relationship as he would have us believe. Evidence for that was laced through the events of the weekend in which he told Netanyahu not to launch an attack, but Netanyahu went ahead anyway. Trump, he didn't expand on our phone call, didn't say what it's all working out very well actually meant and what the evidence was for that. But for me, I think he put his authority on the line. Even before the weekend, the Israeli Prime Minister had formed for ignoring Trump's wishes in pursuit of self-interest. What price, I wonder, Donald Trump's stature if Netanyahu defies him once again? And then there was that line on Iran, that Iran, they are doing what they have to do. This is the reassurance of a president who appears to have misread Tehran through 100+ days of conflict. And I do wonder what value we can pin to that reassurance at all. It is a bold statement, and I think his tone and content had the air of crisis. What crisis? I think it also carried a confidence that might appear misplaced to many, given the history of the past 100 days.
So he may be hopeful that it won't escalate, or he may be just giving the impression that it's not going to escalate because he knows just how much is at stake here. And I think that was evidenced in his response to Iran striking Israel on Sunday night. It was completely out of character. He simply appealed for Iran to return to the negotiating table and do a deal, and appealed to Israel not to retaliate. That's incredible, really, when you consider the kind of hawkish rhetoric this president has used about Iran to this point. He talks about obliterating them, blowing them into the Stone Ages. At one point, he threatened to wipe out a whole civilization there. And when you think about how staunch an ally Donald Trump has been to Benjamin Netanyahu, it is quite something for this president to tell this prime minister that he should show restraint, that he should give negotiations a chance.
Yeah, Trump, he appears to have what he wants for the moment, but it is only a moment, subject to change if the recent events are any guide. His framing of this, is a conflict that both sides want to end. He said as much on Truth Social. But it's not the first time he's put top spin on the prospect of a breakthrough to no end. 4 or 5 times we've been told we're on the brink and nothing has come of it. It's becoming ever more clear, isn't it? Well, for me, that he doesn't have the influence he would like. Israel and Iran, they clearly reserve the right to pursue their own interests and protection, whatever is said in the White House. And that antagonism between Trump and Netanyahu, it's striking, a tension in US-Israeli relations, the like of which I don't think we have seen before. If Israel is now seen to confound Trump's call to heel, then, any semblance of US authority in this disappears. And Trump, I think, is diminished by it.
And he really went a rather strange way about trying to persuade Netanyahu to pull back. He told the Financial Times, I call the shots. He, that's Netanyahu, doesn't call the shots. But he clearly doesn't call the shots when Iran's firing missiles at Israel and Israel's defying the US president's appeal not to strike back, although it does appear to have de-escalated a bit for the time being anyway. Iran says the strikes are over, but it is warning Israel and the United States that they will face hell in the region if they make what Tehran describes as the same mistake again. And Israel's also holding fire for now. But Netanyahu has made it clear that their struggle, as he called it, with Iran and Hezbollah continues. So it's a ceasefire that is just about holding, but to suggest it's fragile would be an understatement.
Yeah, we have an extraordinary situation, don't we, where Trump's telling Israel not to retaliate against Iranian attack. A US president presenting a case, a shield for Tehran's defence. I think it's a measure of how bent out of shape the norms of diplomacy have become. Increasingly, it seems to be the case that bending them back isn't necessarily within Trump's gift. The volatility of the situation, I think, has to increase the risk of a solution, assuming he reaches one, that will be well short of what works for him and for allies in the region.
Assuming he reaches one, it is 10 days since he went into the Situation Room at the White House to make what he called a final determination on a draft deal. That is a determination that is a long time coming. James, the four of us, you, me, Martha and Mark will be back tomorrow, just briefly, to announce Sky News Insider, the new subscription model being rolled out by Sky News.
Yeah, don't be a Sky News outsider. It's all very exciting for us, David, isn't it? You'll be getting plenty more from us going forward as we hurtle towards the US midterm elections.
And in the meantime, we love hearing from you. Send us your messages, your comments, your questions by email to trump100@sky.uk. And we'll be back tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching and for listening. All the best.